Good evening. Welcome to my channel. My name is David Okun. I'm talking about the cost of living, and I'm talking about capitalism as the cost of living. It's, it's the cause of the cost of living. And we were talking about capitalism is the accumulation of wealth. We talk about the accumulation of capital. Watch at the previous video because this is a continuation of capitalism. It's a topic. Be an expert on capitalism. I've said it in other videos. Watch the other videos and find out the logic how it relates to the cost of living. Because if capitalism takes money away from you, it creates the cost of living. And if you work and you are taxed, it creates the cost of living. If you pay for necessities like food, water, energy, that is a form of taxation, including VAT, value-added tax on essential product. If you buy clothes, because clothes is an essential thing, if you buy shoes, if you rent a house, that is an essential. Those are all taxation. You pay, actually, some type taxation are actually direct, others are actually indirect. Income tax is what you know. You work for an employer who works for an investor, and employers. Your boss is actually called the governor or the boss, but he also has a boss. These are people who invest in a business, and sometimes you work for a small and medium business, and they are actually investors. These are actually poor investors, middle class or working class investors. They have businesses, small businesses. They are not really the kind of people I'm talking about. I'm talking about business owners who are multi-millionaires and multi-billionaires who do not work, who do not pay taxes. They get food for free. They get everything for free because even if they pay for it, it is not seen as costing them anything. They don't suffer the cost of living. That is how I'm trying to connect the cost of living with capitalism, because capitalism accumulate wealth into in the hands of the few ruling class, and taking it from the people who are ruled over the poor. The poor are actually the one who suffer the cost of living, and so the cost of living is caused by accumulation of wealth by the few, taken from the many, creating the cost of living for the many, and actually insulating the few from the cost of living. The rich, who are actually the few, do not suffer the cost of living at all because they don't pay for anything. They get everything for free because of their wealth. Even if they actually spend their wealth, it doesn't cost them anything because if you feel the effect of spending, then you suffer the cost of living. That is the whole logic. You see, the cost of living is irrelevant if it doesn't affect you negatively. If it is not a problem. Because you see, somebody who is worth tens of billions of pounds, paying for food is not a problem. Paying for transportation is not a problem. Paying for housing is not even a problem. They don't feel it. If you don't feel it, you don't have it. So if you don't feel poverty, you are not poor. You don't suffer the cost of living. So that is a very neat presentation of this situation for this state of affair. So it's an accumulation, capital accumulation forms the basis of capitalism, and where economic activity is structured around the accumulation of capital, defined as the investment in order to realize financial profit. So you talk about financial profit, you talk about investment, you talk about accumulation of wealth, you talk about structuring this systematization of accumulation of wealth, profiteering. These are the kind of features you look when you try to understand capitalism. You're trying to explain capitalism in terms of the cost of living. In this context, capitalism is defined as money or financial asset invested for the purpose of making more money, whether in the form of profit, rent, interest, royalties, capital gain, or some other kind of return. And so you have all these features. You have rent, interest, royalties, capital gain, or some other kind. There's something called capital gain tax. If you buy something, you gain capital. If you buy, say, a house, that is a capital, you gain it. Yeah, you see, and it's always about making money. You just make more and more and more and more. In mainstream economics, accounting and Marxian accounting and Marxian economics, um, capital accumulation is often equated with investment or profit income or savings, especially in real capital goods. So these are some of the understanding. So you talk of capital goods in modern macroeconomics and econometrics. The phrase capital formation is often used in preferences to accumulate preferences to accumulation, though the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, UNCTAD, refers nowadays to accumulation. So the term accumulation is continuously used in national accounts. So you talk about things like these are some of the concepts. We talk about wage labor. If you work, you're going to get paid money. They call wage labor. You pay these things. You pay these things, but like I said before, they're taxed. They're symbolic. You cannot get rich by actually by being paid wage. So when you look at things like wages, an industrial worker among heavy steel machine, parts, Kinex bearings, Bitica, Slovakia, century 1995 to 2000. These are some of the examples of industries as they existed in the 1990s and the 2000s, which labor refers to the sale of labor under a formal or informal employment contract to an employer. These transactions usually occur in a labor market where wages are market determined. Wages are determined by the market as in supply and demand. So it goes up, it goes also down. Individuals who possesses and supply financial capital to productive ventures often become owners, either jointly as shareholders or individually. And these are some of the dynamics to do with how the labor economy behaves. And in Marxist economics, these owners of means of production and suppliers of capital are generally called capitalists. So we are talking about capitalism. We are looking at labor. The description of the role of the capitalist has shifted, first referring to a useless intermediary between producers, then to an employer of a producer, and finally to the owners of the means of production. So you talk about the means of production, you talk of ownership in the market economic system. Labor includes all physical and mental human resources, including entrepreneurial capacity and management skills which are required to produce products and services. So you talk about products and services, which are actually the factors where you sell and buy things, and production is the act of making goods and services by applying labor power. Labor is at the heart of these activities. When people work, we talk about labor. And if you work, you go on a daily basis to your employer, you are actually dealing with the situation of labor, capitalism, which is actually at the heart of exchange in terms of maximizing profit. And as we have seen in many places, in many ways, and one of the main things capitalists do, especially employers, one of the things they do is actually to manage the cost of labor, and which we said in other place when we look at technology as it is coming along to replace human labor, we have seen actually employers' preferences for investment in technology, and which is actually set to replace human labor, because human labor is viewed by employers as being costly. So efficiency saving, which is actually geared and extended to promote maximization of profit, and as part of the cost cutting exercise, is going to mean unemployment for the few, for the many, and when the many being actually people who work to support industry as laborers, and or actually professional people, the industrial workers of the world poster pyramid of capitalist system 1911. There are some illustration you looking at the labor hierarchy from people who are actually at the top. The few are always at the top. This is actually in logic, in power logic, to maintain stability. People at the top actually are trying to control the ones at the bottom who carry them. Slaves, like, when people actually at the bottom and actually carrying those at the top, they are slave like, although they are not exactly slaves, but their manner and they are being treated in one way or the other is resemblant of a slave master relationship. The ones with power turn on the ones without power at the bottom, the many being at the bottom, the top, the few being in at the top. This is called the industrial workers of the world poster pyramid of capitalist system, as illustrated in 1911. Criticism of capitalism comes from various political and philosophical approaches, including anarchist, socialist, religious, and nationalist viewpoints. So there are critics who actually point to capitalism as being some kind of a form of anarchy. They look at it as a form of anarchy. Anarchy is like when there is no rule of law, and so on and so forth, from religious and nationalist viewpoints of those who oppose it or want to modify it. Some believe that capitalism should be removed through revolution, while others believe that it should be changed slowly through political reforms. And capitalism may or may not be reformed, but we have reached a stage now where capitalism has really achieved its maturation. And in my opinion, I think the best way to do is really learn to survive, to live under capitalism. Prominent critiques of capitalism allege that it is inherently exploitative, alienating, unstable, and unsustainable, and economically inefficient, and that it creates massive economic inequality, commodifies people, degrades the environment, is anti-democratic, and leads to an erosion of human rights because of its incentivization of imperialist expansion and war. So there are at least there, like try to say, they include really very many areas of what people see as really wrong with capitalism. Discuss it in the other video, and these are really interesting outlook. They alienate people. It's an understatement. Unsustainable, yes, it is, because at some point it's going to collapse anyway, and it's a matter of time. And like I said elsewhere, even if we bring technology, because of our cultural failure, we might not be able to actually contain violence. Yeah, I would like to put it in form of, say, if somebody say an incentivization of imperialist expansion and war is here to stay. Like I said in the other video, if you watch the other video, I talked about warfare, which I believe is just going to carry on and on and on and on. And we are going to be in a situation where we are going to need to learn, poor, rich and poor. We need to start to change the way we think. We need to change the way we believe. We have to have respect for other people. We need to really start thinking in terms of we can't just sit here and be going in circle and in circle and in circle. We have seen the wars in Ukraine. We have seen the violence. The violence is actually on the increase. And although we have people who are actually trying to run this country, I see that this is a temporary measure. Governments and even also captains of industries and even the rich have no options. They need to learn culture, and if the rich people can learn to, the rich people should learn to turn away from being wild animals into humans. And rich people likewise, because rich people are actually wild animals waiting to happen when they become rich. And it's a case of really power changing hands from who are now rich, because you see this system operate a pyramid scheme. They are on a pyramid infrastructure, which I believe cannot be changed now, because capitalism has matured. It is going to collapse under its own weight, and when it does, we should be able to actually. It's like an age. It's like an age coming to an end, and that's what capitalism is actually offering. And we have created a monster called the market economic system, and it's going to go to grow and become more and more powerful. And if you are actually at the top, the only way is down. If the economy, because it's going to create a lot of wealth, no doubt. Capitalism is going to create so much wealth for everyone, and let us be in no doubt. But you see, the way people are behaving with wealth under the capitalistic system, wealth is being used as a source of power. Power is needed for rule, and the problem with everything we have been talking about is one: rule. If you decide to rule one over another, it's a form of insanity. And if you see somebody wanting to rule over another, that same ruler wanting to rule over somebody else is a monster. A monster is a psychopath. So in this modern economic system, we are seeing psychopaths ruling over the world, and some of the most insane people are actually rich people, because you see, wealth intensifies their insanity. It makes it into a toxically dangerous thing. And this does not mean there is something intrinsically wrong with them. They are just being human who are corrupt. And they are corrupt because our culture is corrupt. And that's why I said in at the outset of this series of videos that the best way to actually help humanity, to actually help us devise, is to start regenerating our cultural economy, to start changing the way we think. We are because we think, and as we think, so we are. And if we begin to change the way we think from war to peace, then we are going to be better citizens. We're going to be better people. I'm not going to say this is going to the change is going to come immediately. But what I'm trying to suggest here is that change is going to really take long, and this generation can now begin to start thinking of how to solve the problem of insanity, also known as capitalism. Capitalism has been made a monstrous beast. It's a very dangerous thing because human beings are actually running it. And human beings are so insane. They are so mad. They are actually psychopaths. You see mad people. Poor people call their neighbors strangers. I mean, it's not a given that if you are poor, you are innocent. No. I mean, you have to learn your culture. You cannot call your neighbor a stranger. I mean, if you wake up in the morning and then you don't know what is happening to your neighbor, and then you just sit there, and even if your neighbor is being murdered, even if they die, sometimes people die in their houses, and they stay there for years without even being discovered. I mean, we cannot live like that. And if we are really, really humans are not supposed to be insane. We have a right to be really sane. We have a choice. If we can choose to be insane, if we can choose to be completely mad, we can also choose to be normal people. And that's why I believe that our culture can actually help us out of this madness that we are now facing. And we need to really now begin to change the way we think. Because everything begins from your head, how you're thinking. If you think peace, then you are going to be developing mentalities of peace. If you think war, like we are thinking now, everything now is war. You go to wherever you go to parliament, you go to the market, the trading spaces, you go onto the street, people are fighting. The war must end. And it will start with the mindset. We need to start thinking peace, peace, and more peace and peace. Yeah, and you begin to actually see peace in your heart. You are high. You begin to feel peace in your heart. You begin to walk like a normal, peaceful person. You begin to live with fellow humans. You don't stop calling them strangers. You only stop calling a fellow human being stranger when they are not dangerous to you. I mean, if people are actually divided and they are strangers because they don't know each other, because they are divided. Even families are now getting divided. Children are running away from home. Husbands are leaving wives with children, and sometimes wives are leaving husbands. Whatever relationship you choose to be in, people are still not living peacefully. They are always fighting. The reason people actually separate and actually people end up being alone, if you are by yourself, you actually lose any sense of humanity because you don't know people. You fear them because they're going to hurt you, and it's true. If you are actually poor, like I said, you are already a slave in the financial, in terms of wealth relationship, in terms of power, economy. You're a slave because somebody else is ruling over you, and you have to learn to live with it now. But you have to really start a process of emancipation. You have to get out of being a slave by respecting yourself, by respecting other people, changing the way you think, and starting to talk to people. Really, I mean, you form a family group, form a community group, become a society again. You have to really, if somebody is a stranger to you, then you fear them. You begin to fight. I mean, if somebody is not a stranger, you begin to love them. If you love somebody, you are not going to fight them. As simple as that. Easy said than done. Because this destructive processes started years ago. It's now time to change. It is our life. We only live once, and we don't even live long. We only live maybe 60 years, 100 years if we are lucky. But scientists, like I said in the other video, scientists are now doing experiments to extend. I mean, because they discovered humans are not supposed to die of old age. Humans are not. This is great. It is really great. This is science, not fiction. It's happening now. Do a research. I mean, this is good news for humanity. We are going. I mean, we may die now, but I believe scientists are going to discover even ways of bringing us back to life. We used to read this in the. I'm a Christian. We used to read it in the Bible. Now it is scientific. There is something called regeneration, regenerative processes. I mean, if it becomes science, if regeneration become medicine, then what we're going to do, we're going to actually bring back the living. We are going to, if people die, we can bring them back to life. And somebody else said somewhere else, this is science, and I'm not a scientist. Everything you see is information. Information does not destroy. It actually is preserved. So in theory, if we find technology to gather information, data on you as a person, even if you have died for decades ago, information, if we find a way of collecting you data on you, we can use that information to bring you back to life. And this is true. It is still fiction, but it is actually going to be scientific. Because the signs are there, the evidence are now there that this can be done. But they don't do it now. They will be doing it in the future. So even if you die, you can come back to life in the future. So that is why, even if we are not Christian, when people die, we say, raise in peace. People should not raise in pieces. They should raise in peace. If somebody dies, it should also be hopeful that one day we will all come back. If you like writing fictions, this is the opportunity to do a research. Read about regeneration. Read about regeneration, bringing back. I mean, like if your head, if somebody cuts off your head, it's going to grow up back. It's going to grow back. Your head is going to grow back. If somebody cut off your ear, it's going to grow back. If somebody pluck off your nose, you're going to grow back. It's called regenerative. If there is a medicine for that, it's going to be regenerative medicine. Because when you die, it means your body can no longer support your life. And this is still fiction, but it's going to be reality. It's going to be facts in the future. I don't know when. I don't know how. Technology is moving very fast. And if you like writing fictions, do a research on regeneration, regenerative medicine. Write as if it is happening and make you keep yourself busy. If your book become a bestseller, or if your movie, you make a movie from it, if it's a bestseller, you can be a millionaire, and then you can get out of poverty by writing a fiction. I'm not saying you should write a fiction. I'm not saying your book is going to sell. I'm not saying you're going to be happy writing it. But if you think you can do it, I just said it. Do it if you want. Do whatever you like. You can write, you can go. I mean, do whatever you like, honestly. Because I believe there is hope. We may suffer now. Things may get actually very, very bad. Things could get very, very worse. Far worse. But let us not lose hope, because we are humans. We are destined to win. We are actually going to succeed. We may die, but who knows? We may come back to life. If you are Christian, you know that already. Because that's what we are. The Christianity teaches life after death. You have faith, but if not, then I said it's very, very possible it's going to be scientific. That people will stop aging, and if you stop aging, you're not going to die of old age. You can still die of diseases, but what if the um, technologies like nanotechnology begin to improve, even technology improving treatment, things like cancer? What if we develop a capacity to treat every diseases in terms of medical science? I believe that will happen. So what we now are left with is our attitude. You know, do we want peace or war? I say let us choose peace, and then let us use technology. Let's use science. Let's use wealth for peace. You don't want to rule over anyone. You see, especially if technology is already there. If we work, if we are motivated, we can work day and night. Imagine the government announced today that we are going to cure death. Who wants to be part of the research? We found a means of curing death. How many people will want to do a research? We are going to sustain them. Everybody is going to go. Even children. Children go to work. It's about motivation. People are not really supposed to be lazy. They have to have a cause. They have to have a reason to work. They can stay day and night. They just sleep on the couch and work and work and work to get what really matters, what really makes them if work is worth a living. If it is not, if not used, if you are not forced like a slave to work, to fight wars and destroy lives. I mean, hatred, madness. Like now we see in Ukraine, Russia, in the Middle East, in Africa, in America. Yes, there. It is all over the world, all over the world, all over the world. Those in power are actually seeking to fight. Thank you for watching this video. Leave a comment below. Share it. Please subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching. Thank you. Bye.